past week, I flew up to New York City to participate in OpenAI's first ever Agents Hackathon. My partner Adam and I decided to create a HR onboarding video game. So the way that it worked is it took in a plain text document outlining a company's onboarding procedures, extracted the data, and turned it into a video game. So we took that original plain text data and turned it into a very specific JSON object, and used that JSON object to direct the experience of a game. Now, one of the challenges of building at a hackathon or any other time-constrained venue with high pressure is keeping track of how much to do and how much to try. And so we took a really, I think, smart approach to building, in that we first started with just some dummy data. And so we agreed upon a JSON format for what the agent output would look like. And then I got to work building a game that just consumed that JSON data and made for an interesting experience. So I used Phaser.js and React to build a very simple game, and built a fast API server to take in requests for a specific coach and turn it into OpenAI API calls. And so Adam took on the responsibilities of building the agents to take in a plain text document and spit out that very specific JSON that I talked about before. We did the event with about, I think, 83 other people, and everybody was amazingly talented. When we got into our room to present what we built, I was really blown away just by how cool everybody else built was. And I thought there was no chance that we would be anywhere near the top. And so I was very pleasantly surprised when we were picked to be part of the top 3, and finally made it, and we got picked as the number 2 project for the day. So we got to go home with some OpenAI credits and a very cool box, toolbox with OpenAI branding. So I just want to say thank you to OpenAI, and yeah, let's dive into the code and see what we built real quick. So I'm in the folder where my project is, and if I ls, you can see that everything is there. Now the very first thing I need to do is actually make sure I have my API keys set. So for me personally, I keep my API keys in bashrc. So if I do a source.bashrc in both of these, it's going to pull in my OpenAI API key. And so that's going to be in the environment, and so I won't have to configure anything. And when my program runs, it'll be able to pull in the OpenAI authorization, right? Okay, so there's 2 parts that I need to start manually with this project. So the first is this main.py. So I'm going to do a uv run main.py. And so this is actually the part of the web server that will call out to OpenAI's voice API and do an on-demand voice generation for the coach. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the front end directory, and I'm going to do an npm start. Now I've already done an npm install here, and now it starts the development server, and boom, I've got my welcome to Acme onboarding. So we can really quickly just kind of walk through and see what the game itself is. So if I click next, I get this Acme onboarding. And so minor details here, like I have the logo that it has the fave icon, this little logo over here. So if I hit start training, I can type in my name.
Good morning. I'm Coach Blaze, your onboarding coach. Let's get your name perfect on the badge. Could you spell your first name for me, please? Awesome. Now your last name?
And so now we should be able to start the game. I don't know whether or not my mic is going to pick it up, but it's very loud and very unhinged. All right, so now I get back into the game.
Share Acme's culture and 5 core values. Let's warm up with our core values: innovation, integrity, excellence, teamwork, and customer focus. Think of these as your workout staples. Questions about our values before we move on?
And so you can see we kind of just play through the game. So all of this stuff is pulled in from our agents, right? The agents are setting all of these data points for what the core values are of our company. And then over here we have another level of the game. Again, this is 4.5 hours. And yeah, you can see some of it is extremely nonsensical. All right, let's get back over to the code and check it out. Now that we got a feel for what this thing does. Okay, so two things I want to call out here. The first is that we can see how that voice coach was coming in. We have this get request to /blaze, and step 1, step 2. If I go over to the code, we can see the main.py. And so this is really very straightforward. We have a JSON where we're pulling in our input, instructions, and voice. And for each coach, we have our own setup here, right? So if we look at Coach Blaze, how you greet the new hire, what we say, everything, right? Instructor, like a personality type for each HR instructor. And finally, a script, right? What goes in and what gets generated. So let's go over into the front end and let's look at what we've got here. It's relatively straightforward. It is a phaser game at a very high level. We have a React component called logo. If we go into the game, we can see the config, and then we have these scenes, right? So the main scene where we pull in all of these assets, update the player state, runs through it. Let's go over and let's check out some of the agents that we've built. So this one is just pulling through. So this one is going through, pulling in info and doing an agent run on all of the input text. This is the game engine agent, and it pulls in and creates all of these final scenes that get imported. At a really high level, that was it. Pretty straightforward, and maybe not necessarily all there, but plenty to start with, and the general ideas may be interesting. Not pursuing this idea any further. It was kind of just a one-off for the OpenAI Hackathon. And I would just want to say thanks to OpenAI for throwing it, and thanks to Adam for inviting me. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions.